It's a little past 6:45. We do have a quorum present. Paul Mostella, Board President. We'll have a roll call right now. Billy Lerma.
Present.
Jan Mostella.
Present.
Kim Schick.
Present.
Mr. Felix Landin.
Present.
Mr. Stephen Helsher.
Present.
Mr. Samiego, are you on yet? Okay, I do believe have all the board members have had a roll call. Just a reminder before I go through this little spiel that anytime you speak, that you need to mention your name before you speak. And also on those items that we'll be voting on, to make sure that if you make the motion, say your name, that you make the motion. If you second, say your name as well. And we'll do a roll call vote as usual. And I'll read this. Due to the public health threat of COVID-19 coronavirus, this meeting is being conducted by video conference. At least a quorum of the board will be participating in this video conference according with the provisions of section 551.152 or 551.127 of the Texas Government Code that have not been suspended by order of the governor. Members of the public may access this meeting using the following YouTube. It's on the website that does go through. Members of the public who desire to address the board regarding an agenda or non-agenda item must comply with the following registration procedure. A link to a public comment form is available at the www.surveymonkey.com TMISD. This link and form will be active Monday, May the 11th, 2020 until 9 a.m. from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Comments submitted will be read aloud during the public comments section of this notice of agenda. We do have a quorum established, and now we'll do the pledge. You do not have to stand for it, much like it didn't work out well. You can remain seated, but I will move to the side. The flags are behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas flag, honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. And the board mission statement, Tolosa Midway Independent School District educates every student to be a lifelong learner and a person of integrity and a positive contributor to society. At this time, we'll move into our public hearing. It's supposed to be the Texas Academic Performance Report. It's the paper report. Mr. Sumner, well.
Thank you, Mr. Mostella. We're required every year by law to present our academic performance report. We had first planned to do this in March, and due to the coronavirus and the school closure, it just got pushed back a little bit later. We're still within the legal requirements, the compliance framework, time frame that we're required to do that. And I've asked Holly, she is going to present the report to you tonight. You should be able, you have in front of you the district performance report, the PowerPoint that she's going to go over. What I would ask that everyone do is just allow her to go through that report, and then after she's gone through there, if you have any questions, you might be able to ask those questions back to her or to the principal on a particular campus. but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Holly. Now, I will apologize. She may not tell you this, but she has been home sick today, not feeling well, and she's going to try to make it through a couple of these items that are dealing with curriculum. If not, and if she drops out, I'll take over for her. So Holly, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you
Yeah.
and let you go ahead and do the taper report this time.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Good evening, everyone. I am here tonight bringing you the district performance report for 2018-2019. You were provided this presentation in paper form, but it should be available to you on your screen at this time. I'm going to move through this report just kind of, as Rodney mentioned, just kind of going over the main points, high points, and then if you have any questions, we will answer those at the end of this presentation. This annual performance report is for the year 2018-2019 and contains the items on your screen: the PEIMS Financial Standard Report for 17-18, the district accreditation status, which was available for the current year, so I went ahead and included that, a violent or criminal incident report from 2018-19, student performance in post-secondary institutions for our graduate of 2017, but their performance in their first year of higher education in 2018, and of course the Texas Academic Performance Report for 2018-19, which we call TAPER. In front of you now is the PEIMS Financial Standard Report, and several slides now will show you that specific report. This is something you can direct questions to Mr. Carroll if you have any at the end of my presentation. The current slide reflects our current 1920 accreditation status. And of course, you can see on the far right-hand side, we are an accredited school district. Also required to be announced or distributed is our current status in special education. Whoops. As you can tell on our report, right underneath our district's name and our accountability rating, it does show that we do need assistance in our special education area. This requires a special focus committee to be led by our special education director. The group put together an action plan, which includes the items below on the screen, among with many other things. But what comes with this is also many meetings and much review of data and student performance in this area. This is being reported to the state, and we hopefully will improve in this area so that we don't have to do this type of work next year. It is a lot of work on our teachers, our staff, and Ms. Alvaro. And again, if you have questions regarding these things, please direct those to Ms. Alvaro at the end of my presentation. For 2018-19, we reported no violent or criminal incidents, and we do currently have prevention and intervention procedures in place. This report shows the high school graduates from Telos Midway from the year 2017 and reflects their current status in their first year of higher education. You'll notice on the left-hand side of the chart, you'll see our two high school level campuses. As you move towards the columns on the right, you'll see a total number of graduates and what type of university or college or entity that they entered and what type of GPA they are maintaining through their first year in college. Of course, if they go out of the state or they go to a non-trackable entity, they would not be reflected here. Now I'll get directly into the Texas Academic Performance Report, or the TAPER report, which has two portions. Section 1 is district performance, takes a deep look at how our students perform on the STAR assessment, and then goes into the district profile in Section 2. Before we go directly into that, the first page of our TAPER report does indicate that we received and earned a letter grade of B with an overall score of 89, which I'd like to also reflect upon the prior year. We had at this very same time a grade level of a C with a numerical grade of a 78. We have made tremendous progress and hope to make even that much more this year and move into a higher letter grade. Of course, our goal is an A. Just as a reminder of what those letter grades equate to, here below are the different levels of each letter grade. Also, as a reminder, before we move into some of the slides below, I do want to remind you that accountability is based on 3 domains. Domain 1 being student achievement, domain 2 being school progress, domain 3 closing the gaps. Now, you'll notice that at the top of those 3 domains, we have the state uses either domain 1 or domain 2 plus domain 3. Either 1 or 2, whichever is highest, is used, which becomes 70% of our overall grade. 30% is the closing the gaps domain. It's not quite as straightforward as we'd like it to be. So when you look at our specific chart here, with all of that information now becoming numbers, if you notice domain 1 to the left, student achievement is domain 1. Our skilled score is an 88. School progress, domain 2, which was a 90. So the state elected to use domain 2 in our accountability calculations, along with domain 3 as an 87. 90 would be 70%, the 87 would calculate 30%, which brings our scaled score to an 89. And this is how we receive a grade level of a B. This year is the first year that our campuses were actually assigned a letter grade officially. And this slide does show you each of the district is at the very top, and below it is every campus. And you can move your eye down from the top to the bottom and see the overall rating and score. You'll see the rating of the letter grade as well as a numerical equivalent. Moving into the actual TAPER report. We are quite proud of some of the progress we have made. Of course, we know that we have more to make. Just so you are aware, the data that is used for these calculations, we have had in our hands, and we have been looking and analyzing this data since June of last year. We have made efforts based on that data and that analyzation before, during the school year, and up to the point where during our everyday decisions when we are talking about instruction. So here, this reflects the entire district with the state and the region, and it also reflects our prior year. We have made some significant progress in some areas that we're very proud of. If you'll note, we remain above all of the areas for the state and the region. If you'll notice the significant increase in the writing, we have made a huge investment in our primary and intermediate schools with writing professional development and strategies for our kids, and we are seeing the improvement show up in these numbers. Moving into section 1 in graduation and college readiness, you can see some of the different information that are just the highlights of the report itself. Of course, we always brag about our almost 0% dropout rate. I'm not sure where they can find 0.2% of a student, but they have managed to do that. But we are well below state and region in the dropout rate area. Student information, we're at the time of snapshot in the year prior, we had 3,926 students, which was an increase from the year before that. We are slightly down in the area of special education. We could have graduated some of those. We could have, some of those could have moved on, but we are slightly below the amount we had the year prior. Still maintain pretty low class size averages and low retention rates. Staff information, our staff data reflected that we have a few less number of staff from the year prior. Our average years of experience maintain the same level. Most of our teachers have an average time with our district of 7.3 years, and we have no change in our turnover rate. Our program information always shows a very strong career and technical education program. We are increasing our number of students every single year, and it was noted that we went from 24% to over 28% of our students are now enrolled in CTE courses. Our ELL population has also increased quite a bit, and we see that increase every single year, and it's why we continue to make efforts to assure their education is beneficial and relative and supportive in their area. And as you can see here, you can also see the slight decrease in students of special ed. The campus table reports will follow the same format. Here you can see the intermediate STAR performance for grades 3 through 5. Again, if you'll take your eye down to writing, which is something we're just celebrating over and over, we can see a 21% increase in writing in 4th grade. Writing has always been an area of issue, especially at our intermediate school. And because of the high focus that we have placed on this area, I think we're seeing the high return as well. You can also see where we are maintaining most areas, grade levels, and subjects above the state and the region. The intermediate school received 3 distinction designations, academic achievement and ELAR, top 25% of closing performance gaps, and top 25% of comparative academic growth. Primary school feeds into our intermediate school and responds to the same accountability measures as intermediate. These are the items that they feel they put in place that has making the most improvements. These are things that have been put in place beginning in July. Sorry about that. But as I said, this data has been in our hands since June, or even some of it in May, and we have been working to make improvements ever since then. Here are also intermediate action steps. Again, a lot of these we began the very first day of school. We do not wait until we have taper to make these decisions in our schools and classrooms. Here's middle school's STAR performance report. We do have some work to do, although we did see a pretty significant gain in social studies in grade 8. We know we have work to do, and we are building committees and taking a lot of time to focus on efforts to make sure that we are improving in all of these areas. With that said, these were provided by the middle school principal as their action steps this year. The biggest being professional development in learning more about strategies that can improve STAR performance and overall learning. Here's high school and ACC and of course performance. Same format. Again, much more over the state and the region. High school earned the academic achievement in social studies. And just so you know, since ACC is an alternative education accountability campus, they are not eligible for these distinction designations. The high school's action steps here on the screen in front of you. Really trying to work on the success of our LEP students at the higher levels. A lot of times when they come in later in school, later in grades, later in age, it's much more difficult to get them to be successful. So we are working very much to help build a better support for them at the high school. And here is ACC's action steps. And in closing, I can tell you that we are constantly looking at data. We are constantly reviewing where we can improve, and we are in a continuous improvement mode at all times. So now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask principals or myself.
Holly, hi, this is Stephen Helfer. What kind of data are they going to have for next year's, since we're going to start this year?
That's a very good question. We haven't gotten much direction on that yet. Of course, we won't have STAR data for sure. We are probably going to be charged with developing some of our own local assessments to begin the year, throughout the year, to make sure we know exactly where our students stand and what gaps or deficiencies we need to address.
Mr. Helcher, I did get information today that TEA is looking at an optional beginning of the year test to assess students academically at the beginning of the next school year. So that may be another diagnostic tool that we have. But basically, this school year, there will be no grade next year. And so it's just like this year did not happen on terms of accountability. We were very hopeful that we have implemented a lot of changes up to this point. The assessments along the way, the benchmarking and the different things that we've been using. And we were hoping that we were going to make it to that A level. Now we will not know at all. So next year, the dilemma we face is we've had students out for 3 months, and we're going to, even though they're at home, they're doing some online work and then packet work. We know that there is going to be some regression. And so we're working very hard to try to figure out what are we going to do to make sure we assess where a student is and what kind of steps we're going to have to do to help catch kids back up, whether it's in intercession, whether it's at the beginning of the year, but we got a lot of planning to do as we work forward. Next year, I wish I could tell you what it will look like, but we're not going to take it for granted, and we're going to work real hard to see what we can do to recoup whatever we've had or we have lost this school year.
Good question though, Stephen. Thank you. It's something we're constantly talking about, to be honest, right now. Any other questions?
Almost done. Are there any other questions from anyone? Holly, we do appreciate you taking your time, even though you do feel bad, to give us a report. You did an excellent job. Thank you. And we appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. That concludes our report. Now we move on to public open forum.
No one signed up, sir.
Okay, no one has signed up for public open forum. We move into the discussion action items section of our board meeting. Mr. Sumner.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda tonight for action is consideration and possible action to approve district-wide copier printer program. And I have included in the cover letter the explanation for that. Chris Casares, who is sharing the computer with Mr. Landine, will make the presentation, and then we'll make the recommendation based on his presentation and after any questions that may be directed toward him. So Mr. Casares, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. We're coming to the end of a 5-year copy lease with Konica Minolta. So therefore, in advance, we have been getting things in line. We've been right-sizing our equipment. We've been studying workloads at each spot for the past 12 months, coming up with what it is that the district actually needs based on what we're doing. So the proposal that I wrote, I kind of want to go through it with you to kind of see what we put out there for the vendors. We specified what type of equipment we wanted. We put the number and sizes of machines, all the capabilities, and put that out there. We told them we wanted a 60-month lease that included maintenance to the exclusion of all taxes, property tax and sales tax, and that at the conclusion of the contract that the machines could be ours for $1 a piece, or that we could send them back at no cost to ourselves. Put that option in there so we can decide at the end. The maintenance was to include all parts, labor, toner, and staples. We also asked for how many technicians service this area and what other accounts that they had in this area so that we would know who we'd be sharing them with. We wanted a quarterly performance report, and we also wanted the maintenance and operating leases separated, which would make it easier for our billing department. The start of the contract would be June 28th, which is when the current contract expires, and that we would be fully functional and trained by that day. We also put in for $640,000 black and 35,000 color copies per month, which was the monthly average from the previous year, dating from March 2019 to February 2020, a full year span from the big copiers. And then we have a kind of a unique situation where every classroom also has a printer in it. So a monthly volume of 385,000 from those 377 printers. And we said, put all of that with all of the billing, all of the maintenance, the lease, and put it into a monthly bill for us so that we can compare apples to apples amongst all the competitors. And then we also left a section for exclusions. If anybody had anything that varied from what we said, we wanted that in writing, which nobody did, but it protected us as well. So from 5 reputable companies that submitted bids, Mr. Carroll, Ms. Riggs, and myself, we took all of that information, we crunched it, we ranked it, and we're very happy tonight to bring Toshiba as the company that we are recommending. And the highlight of this is that for this, with much better additional service that we will be getting, we're going to be saving $126,000 a year over the next 5 years, which comes out to $633,000 in savings that the district will have by taking this contract. So I'm very proud to announce that.
Thank you, Chris. Does anyone have questions of Chris? This is Paul Mostello.
Mr. Gonzalez, how much equipment are we gonna have to replace in this new, it's gonna be do a complete sweep of the district itself?
Yes, sir.
It
We'll
would be,
have 58 large and medium-sized copiers and 377 printers.
okay, so that would be every copier and printer in the district is what you're talking. I mean, they
Yes, sir.
wouldn't interchange anything. I mean, we didn't purchase anything.
No, this current contract that was made 5 years ago, we're going to have to pay to send the equipment back. And I'm still trying to get that figure from Konica Minolta.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because I mean, if, you know, are we gonna have a return payment on that?
Yes, sir, which I will fight with them because the equipment will be 5 years old. So I will fight and argue with them if they try to put a substantial price on that.
Okay, yeah, if you would just let the board know, just in one of the weekly summaries, you know, just let us, just, you know, give us indication of what we can expect, because I mean, I know sometimes, you know, we just rush through this, through the check registry, and, you know, then weeks later you look at it and you think, well, what do we pay that for? You know, we have a contract with ABC company instead of the other guy nowadays. But sir, thank you very much for all your hard work, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions? This is Paul Mostello. Mr. Sumner.
Mr. President, it is the recommendation from administration that the board approve the award for district-wide copier printer program with Toshiba, including the master premium lease agreement and the master premium lease schedule and all other applicable documents for the period beginning June 2020 and ending June 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. This is Paul Mostello. Do we have a motion on the administrative recommendation, please?
Mr. Chairman, so move on that recommendation.
Thank you, Felix. Do we have a second, please?
Hi, this is Jan Mostello. I second that, please.
Thank you, Jan. Any other comments or questions? Chris, we do appreciate all that you've done. I know that it takes up a lot of time, but looks like you did a good job saving the district some money. It's always a
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, now we'll do a roll call vote. Billy Lerma,
I vote yes.
Ms. Jan Mostello,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Stephen Helsher,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Sheck,
Yes.
Mr. Felix Landine,
Yes.
Mr. John Samuel.
Yes.
Okay, this is Paul Mostello. I vote yes. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Sumner.
The next item on the agenda is number 2. Consideration and possible action to improve instructional material proclamation for 2020. Again, another requirement by TEA, and I will let Holly make that presentation. So Holly, if you would take over and give the background information to the board.
Yes, the high school English 1 through 4 was up for adoption this year. Just as always, a committee of staff members do look over all available adoption materials. The high school committee included all of the high school English teachers, plus a few other special ed and support teachers as well. They reviewed all materials back in October of 2019 and have elected to choose Pearson. The title of the material is actually called My Perspectives. Interestingly, that we always look for consistency across secondary and across elementary, and middle school also uses Pearson My Perspectives, which will also create a nice, consistent materials used. Students will be used to the approach from all the way from 6th grade all the way to 12th. They unanimously agreed that this was the best possible publication for their purpose. They liked the materials being available digitally as well as not digitally, and very adaptable for their curriculum approach. So I am just here to report that that is what they have selected, and they are looking for your approval for high school English 1 through 4 and Pearson as their selected adoption. This adoption also goes in place to support newly adopted TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, for high school English 1 through 4. So it is imperative that they have new materials that are aligned to their TEKS as well.
Thank you, Holly.
Mhm.
Any questions? Mr. Sumner?
Mr. President, it's the administration's recommendation for the Board of Trustees to approve the instructional materials as selected and presented.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. Do we have a motion on administrative recommendation, please?
Stephen
This is Jan
Hilscher, I
Costello.
motion.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes, Stephen.
I motion that we approve this.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. Do we have a second, please?
Felix Landon, a
This is
second.
Jan Costello. I second that.
Okay, well, Felix got in there first. Okay, there's a little bit of a delay here. Billy Lerma,
Yes.
Ms. Jan Mastella,
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Helsher,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Schick,
Yes.
Mr. Felix Landin,
Yes.
Mr. John Samiego,
Yes.
Paul Mastella, yes. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Mr. Sumner?
The next item on the agenda, number 3, is consideration and possible action to approve allotment and TEKS certification for the 2020-2021 school year. Again, another requirement by TEA, and I've asked Holly to provide the background information to you.
Yes, thank you. Just as a reminder, I think everybody is fully aware now that back in the day, we were just sent instructional materials as needed from the state. They held a warehouse of them and sent them as we requested. No longer is that the case. They now hold our funds in an instructional materials allotment, and we then have to request those funds to be approved, to be spent on adopted materials. Every year we do this. This is something that's required annually, that we must submit an allotment and TEKS certification. number one, to say that we will use it as only allowed in the required ability to purchase materials. And the other is to say that we do offer courses that align with the TEKS, that align with the adoptions that we are purchasing. So this document that you see that has to be approved by the board is just saying that you do support and acknowledge and authorize the district to use the allotment funds to purchase instructional materials from the IMA allotment.
Thank you, Holly.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Sumner?
Mr. President, the administration recommends for the Board of Trustees to authorize the allotment and TEKS certification 2020 through 2021 and provide signatures respectively.
Mr. Do we have a motion on the administrative recommendation, please?
Mr. Costello also move on that recommendation, make a motion.
Thank you, Jan. Ms. Mistella, do we have a second, please?
I'll second
Let
that.
him, I second it.
Okay, John got in there first. Remember, there's a little bit of a delay here. Okay, Mr. Billy Latimer,
Yes.
Ms. Jan Mistella,
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Helsher,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Sheck,
Yes.
Mr. Felix Landine,
Yes.
John Samiego,
Yes.
Paul Mistella, that's yes. The motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sumner, move on.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda requires no action, but I've asked Philip Carroll to provide you a report on preliminary tax values for 2020. We just received these midweek last week. Remember, we're given a preliminary value in April, a certified value. The final values will not be given to us until toward the end of July. But we can start building a budget and start getting a sort of somewhat idea of where we stand in terms of property taxes. And so, Philip, if you would go ahead, because we're talking about our 2020 values, and if you would like to go ahead and provide a report to the board. Thank you.
Yes, as you'll see, one thing to remember though, these are values as of January 1. A lot has changed since then. So I was a little surprised that the preliminary value is 300 million higher than the preliminary value from last year. That's almost a 10% increase. I do foresee though, a lot of companies, especially anybody related to all these industries that are suffering, they're probably going to appeal these values. They're not going to stick because of what's going on, but this is what's happening right now. And so, and traditionally, the Nueces County Appraisal District, they lowball the preliminary values. Like I said, in the past 5 years, our certified values have gone up anywhere from 2 to 10%. So the certified values could be higher than this. And then if you just kind of look at the history of during the year, you know, once we get to certified values, then there's always adjustments during the year, and they're always continuing to reduce it. Just to kind of show you this year, there hasn't been a real significant reduction. It's it's almost 1%. That's normal as people apply for exemptions and get their values, their protests approved. And then just one thing to note, you'll see the difference that you'll always see between the M&O values and the INS values. That's our 313 agreement with Corpus Christi Polymers now. That difference will always represent the amount above the 30 million that we can tax them on the M&O side. So that's basically what they're getting. They're saving on the M&O side, but they have to fully pay on the INS side. And the preliminarily, they've reduced CC Polymers values about 500,000. So they lowered it just a little bit, but that's where you can see that big variance between M&O and INS. And we'll just have to wait till July and see what our certified looks like. That's it.
Now, Mr. Carroll, I know the legislature changed last year and they're capping the amount of our value increase. And then anything above that will be reduced from our state funding.
Yes, that's a very important point. I forgot to mention, even if our values stay at 10%, that's not going to matter because I think preliminary, they're saying across the state, they're capping increases, I think about 4.5%. So that just means if our values go up 10%, we'll have to lower our tax rate. We'll have to compress our tax rate because our values increased higher than the average of the state. So that'll affect us there too.
Now, from my perspective, there's a lot of uncertainties as we move forward in the establishment of our budget for next year. I know that we're in a biennium with funding. However, I'm hearing things at the state level where they're already putting freezes on this year's budget, not let alone next year's budget. So what I've told Philip as we proceed forward in establishing our budget for next year, we're probably going to present a very conservative budget. We're going to probably look at recommending a budget with a 0% increase and using the same amount that we have right now and hope that that stays steady and that we'll be able to work with that. Now, it's always easier if we get more money to go ahead and modify and amend something and put something back in. But it really is difficult when we have to take it away. And so I'm just telling you up front, as we work on budgets with the different campuses and district-wide, we're going to try to present a very conservative budget this school year. Because I just have a fear at the state level. Remember, we've already seen a 9.3% decline in sales tax across the state. The state budget was built on a $53 a barrel of oil. And that is a barrel of oil right now had gone almost down. Well, in fact, it did for a while below $0 a barrel. It's up now to about $24, $25 a barrel. And so it may be on a rebound. However, we really don't know. So when you don't know, if the coronavirus and everything that we had happened had not faced us at this particular point, we were looking forward to a really bountiful year. And I think we would not be talking about a conservative budget. We might be talking about a very on an opposite. But right now, we're going to just try to see what we can do to make it. And we probably will only recommend in June our step raises for our teachers and be very conservative about not recommending anything at this particular point for other folks until we can find out exactly what the revenue is going to look like and projection for the following year.
Anybody have any other questions?
No questions?
Rodney, this is Felix. Do you foresee that we're going to be garnished some money this coming year too?
We don't know.
Considering all this information that you're giving us?
I have not seen anything from the state telling us that our state funding will be reduced this year. I have not seen that yet. But the state they're funny. They don't level up until sometimes months after our budget's over. And so we may not even have any idea until it's after the fact. And so
Okay.
I am trying to do, Mr. Landine, I'm trying to be very conservative at this particular point, trying to protect us to the best of our ability. I hope that I'm wrong and that we'll get more money and we'll get what we're said. With that in mind, it's always easier to amend and put back something back in than it is the other point of
Yeah,
take it away.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
And any
Mr.
other
Marcelo,
questions?
this was only a report only.
Yes,
Just information, and I'm not trying, I've been telling this principal for the last month, and I'm not trying to be a bearer of doom and gloom, but I just want to be realistic in our approach as we move forward, because, you know, when this is a $40 million a year business that we're in, educating the children in the school district, and every cent counts, and we want to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money and spend it wisely and make good decisions. And I think the more you know, the better it is as we move forward.
yes, thank you, Mr. Summer. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, we can move on to item number 5, Mr. Summer.
The next item on the agenda is an update on graduation. May 21st canceled, July 9th alternate date, and any further action deemed appropriate. I did provide you information in your daily board closure report that the American Bank Center has canceled all graduations for the month of May. And so all of the school districts, Toloso, Cal Island, Gregory Portland, CCISD, I think Ingleside had scheduled American Bank Center this year, has been canceled. Now, we did, Ms. Bartosh, and I think she's maybe somewhere on the, there I see her. They were wise enough to get with American Bank Center as quickly as they could, and was able to reserve July 9th as a backup date for a graduation ceremony. However, that in itself, there are some unknowns even with that. The reason I bring all of this up, because I know there's some grumblings and people talking about graduating in the football stadium and trying to do something different from what we have. I provided to you from a guidance from the Texas Education Agency dated May 6th. And there's a whole section starting on page 4 of that handout, but I think it's page 52 in the board handout that talks about outside graduation ceremonies. Now, the TEA has allowed graduation ceremonies to be outdoors between May 15th and May 28th in rural counties with certain specifications. There has to be, for a period of time, it's got to be certified by the county judge that there has the number of cases has been declining for a number of days. We're not considered a rural school district, so we do not qualify for that. We can do it after May 29th, starting May 30th. However, even on that, we have to go along with the current health conditions. And I've listed all the things that we have to comply with to hold something outside. For example, they're recommending that we limit the number of families. The number of families would probably be somewhere between 4 and 5 plus the graduate. They're recommending face masks or encourage that. They're stating that I have to have all people entering the stadium screened for current health conditions, taking their temperature, etc. That we have to have enough staff to sanitize the restrooms frequently, the stands frequently, that we do practice social distancing, that we escort people in and out And when the graduation is over, that we cannot let them all go at one time. We have to let them go in sections so there is not a crowd and a lot of additional exposure. Hand sanitizers everywhere, enough staff and security to enforce what we're doing. We cannot shake the graduate's hand. A diploma cannot be handed to them. They can pick it up. If we do shake their hand, we have to wear gloves. And there's a lot of additional assignments in this. When you look at our stadium and you look at the home side and you look at over 300 graduates and you're looking at social distancing and trying to spread people out 6 feet from each other, or you can put a family together but 6 feet away, our stadium is reduced to about a little over a third. So if we went with 300 kids, we would almost have to use both sides of our stadium, put our kids on the middle of the football field. And then we've got a group setting in the sun. I visited with Beeville, and Beeville is going to go with a graduation at their stadium. Their home side is twice as big as our home side, but they're starting about 4:30 or 5, letting people in. They're assigning them seats, limiting the number. The graduation ceremony doesn't start to 7:30. I cannot even imagine in June sitting in our stands for 2.5 hours trying to wait for that. And we cannot assure that the seating, depending on where they set to where we have a stage, it may not be the best seating or even the best visibility. We talked about, okay, I guess you could break it down into groups. If you broke it down into 2 groups, you would have 150. If you broke it down in 3 groups, you can make it a more manageable number of about 100. But I really feel that logistically, graduating in our stadium is probably, for health and safety, is not going to be the best alternative we have. We've met today. We have maybe another idea if we don't want to go with the American Bank Center in July, of having people in cars in the visitors parking lot parked. They're given a different placard so they can line up. We can have a line going into our school. They can space out, walk in down the hallway, walk into the pack, one at a time, take a picture, get a diploma, walk out the door and go back to their car. It would be probably the safest of our options. We'd have to have our nurses standing at the door, taking everyone's temperature as they come in the building. And even doing that, I wonder what it would be like if we have some people we don't let in the building because of they don't meet the criteria. In other words, their temperature is over 100.4. So there are some things that we can potentially do. Right now, what we've done, and Benny and Ann have taken the ball and ran with the idea. They're doing a sort of a virtual tribute right now. We're putting together a video with the Val, the Sal speeches, all of the board members saying things, giving them the best wishes, the principals saying some things, and with music and different things. And we're planning on playing that on May the 21st at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, not to take the place of graduation, but as just as a tribute to them, and provide that to the parents as a gift from us. I know the high school is working on yard signs that they're going to be giving to kids that saying 2020 senior, proud of you. We talked about if you move graduation to July 9th, what happens if we have a few kids that are joining the military or can't be here. Right now, we've had only 2 contact us that said they're leaving in the middle, going to the military in the month of June. So we can do a private ceremony for them, Mr. Mostella and I, and with photographer and their parents to take a picture and on the stage at the PAC, and we can get them a diploma at that particular point. And if we have a few more, we can do that if we need to. But I just wanted to let you know, we've been putting a lot of thought in this. It's not as easy as it looks. And the big thing that we have to focus on is health and safety. And my concern, and I'm going to be very honest with you at this time, with the outbreak that I see at Sam Kane's and what I'm hearing on the news, our community may have a significant, be impacted significantly by the coronavirus. And a lot of our kids, their parents work at the meatpacking plant, and we want to be very careful and cautious of anything that we do. So I just present this to you. Right now, we have July 9th as an alternate date. If July 9th doesn't work, the next option would probably be the option of us doing the sort of the walking in our building and down where we can limit people. They can get back in their cars and they can leave. The problem with that is what our kids want is a last hurrah with their friends. They want to be together. And I don't know at this particular point if we're going to be able to provide that to them. So I just let you know that it's been discussed and what we're working on at this particular point. And I know she's here, and if you have any other specific questions, you can direct them toward her. I'm here to support the high school in accomplishing what they want to accomplish in terms of graduation. Ms. Bartosh,
We did do our top 10 banner, and our plan is to put it up on the electronic billboard on 44 and alternate it with a general congratulations to our graduates, our 2020 graduates. So we're looking forward to that. And we will have the top 10 banner. And then Mr. Seminiego's asking about how about have a split graduation? And I think you talked about that, right, Mr. Sumner? Splitting the kids.
we would have to split them up and do it. I think if we're going to do it safely, we would have to do at least 3 different groups. You know, one of the things I talked to Mr. Portillo today was we could do it like we do pre-K graduation and do 3 different nights. The Sal Val would have to perform at all 3 of them, and we would have certain kids. We can reduce the numbers down to about 100. It would be a ordeal, but could we do it? Yeah, I guess we could do it if we needed to or had to do it. And that is certainly an option if we did that, but it would have to be outside. We could not do that, I believe, inside the building.
No.
Mr. President, I bring this to the board. If there's any further suggestions, or if we want to just stick with our July 9th date, and as we proceed over the next several weeks, we can continue to discuss this if the conditions change, and that we can look at other options. I heard Cal Island was looking at graduating on the football field. It's not on their agenda at their board meeting tonight. And we were unable to track down anyone at Cal Island to confirm that. I heard that from a board member from Cal Island saying that they were discussing that. But like I said, our problem is our home side stands is probably half the size as Cal Island's home side stands. They can accommodate more people. And one of the things we would be forced to do if we had it, no matter split or what, we're going to have to limit the number of people there, probably to 4 or 5 family members. And that is going to be something I really don't cherish having to do, because we have never had to limit the number of people at our graduation. If it still hangs on July 9th at the American Bank Center, We can keep our fingers crossed that the restrictions will be relaxed by then, and we may not have to be faced with the same restrictions that we might have.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner and Ms. Bartosh. Any further comments or questions? We do have time to think about this. And I think other districts, from what I understand, are still thinking about it. I know Odom, they're considered a rural district, and that's one of their agenda items tonight. They're going to talk about having it on the football field, but they are aware of all the restrictions, but everything. Okay, if there's nothing else, would you go on to number 6, Mr. Sumner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 6 is another open-ended presentation about update on school closure and planning for the 2021 school year. At our last board meeting, we approved our instructional calendar for the 2021 school year with our start date in July as we would normally start. Now, I can tell you that I've been reading articles, I'm getting information from TEA, and we really do not know with 100% accuracy what we're going to be able to do at this particular point. So we're planning for a variety of activities that may or may not happen. For example, this is what the information I've received from TEA. The scenarios we're looking at right now depends on conditions. Number 1, start school in August as normal. That would be for the traditional school calendar. We would start our regular school calendar in July. 2, start in August with some restrictions in place. What kind of restrictions? Well, there's a lot of different ideas, and I'll talk about those in a few minutes. Start in August with restrictions in campus with micro closures, 3 to 5 days at a time as needed if we see outbreaks. Or don't start in-person instruction until January. Dallas ISD, the superintendent there, Michael Hinojosa, said he thinks it's highly doubtful the schools will open in August as normal. And said that it's highly likely Dallas ID could operate under a blended learning plan where students are on campus certain days of the week and at home on the other days of the week. We have heard ideas such as a blended model of a morning session and an afternoon session, trying to reduce the number of kids on campus at one time. For example, an AM and a PM. Or we've heard of a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday block, and trying to reduce the number of kids on our campus at one time. The CDC's suggestion is we keep kids 6 feet apart, which you know as well as I do, that is going to be pretty difficult to accomplish in a school, especially at a primary school or elementary school where kids run up and hug their friends and they're around kids all the time. Maybe not at the high school level, but at the elementary, yes. The CD said they could shut the cafeteria down, eat lunch in the classroom. Well, that even opens up another situation. Normally during the lunch period, our teachers are on duty. Are on a duty-free lunch. That's their lunch. So if they're in a classroom, who's going to watch them? I don't have enough other people in a building to be assigned to a classroom while a kid would eat. They're also saying no PE, no recess. And if you know primary kids like I do, playground, recess, and PE helps burn off energy. And if you don't have that energy being burned off, they're in a classroom bouncing off the wall. So I don't know how that would actually work or happen. So right now, I know one thing that, I understand CCISD is telling their teachers to prepare for online learning next year. And if that meant that those that could do online, and packets, written packets for all the others, which is not ideal. We've got a lot to look at in the next couple of months to see what's going to happen. As I said earlier, part of Holly's and my concern is trying to assess our kids to see academically where are they and what are we going to need to do to remediate and provide them anything they need to do to make up anything they missed during the closure. And we've got kids that we haven't got a hold of, even though it's a few numbers. We're going to still have to provide them an opportunity to catch up and make up. And then for our other kids, we know that it cannot be the same as it is without the classroom teacher and the instruction. And so I tell you up front, every day I'm looking to TEA for guidance. Holly in the site base, as they're starting to look at different options. She talked to me today about maybe adding days to our calendar to help with the makeup. Questions is right now, we don't know how that impacts our teacher contracts based on a certain number of days. Legally, can we do that or can't do that? So there's a lot of things that's going to come down for next school year that's uncertain. When I asked someone at the state level, can you say with 100% accuracy, we'll start back in August? And they said, we can't say with 100% accuracy anything at this time. They do not know. And so I tell you this just as information to you, not trying to alarm you, but just to let you know that we're looking for TEA to provide us guidance on what we can do or cannot do. They're encouraging more schools to go to year round, because I think they're saying that the year round provides opportunities. You know, for us, we've got built-in intercession that if we can't start when we can start, we've got some time that we can recoup some days of instruction. And so that's why we've talked to our teachers and told them, even though we have 4 weeks right now at Christmas, that may not happen. They may only have 1 week at Christmas. If we have to use those days to make up days from intercession and work with our kids. So Holly, you and I are the one that have been sweating this. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just can assure everyone that we're trying to be as creative as possible. I'm trying to think, especially when so much of this is unknown. We have definitely very little guidance being a year-round district, but we want to preserve that at all costs, of course, for our community. But we want to also make sure that first and foremost, we are thinking about our students and assuring that we are attempting our very best to recover any lost learning or recoup any learning that has been not had because of the closure. So we are in constant conversation with one another, principals and all instructional district level leaders, or to try to determine what would be best and what our options may be. The closer we get to July, and it's really not that far away, we will have some decisions to make, but we will do that in the best interest of our kids at all times.
Mr. Masella, that's all I wanted to say and provide information to the board at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sumner, and thank you, Ms. and Holly Anderson. We know it's still a rather fluid situation, and we'll have to have some guidance, like you say, from TEA. It's just we'll have to wait and plan for some of those things. The next item is concerning board things right here, and it's talking about 2020 spring TASB workshops. Now, if you notice there in your board packet, you saw that there was one page where TASB is providing online webinars where they do provide training, and you do get hours for them. You have to register for them prior to getting online. And they do give you a number at the end of the webinar, and you can register it through your app with the TASB People Direct, or you can get Chrissy. She can also help you out in that aspect. But you'll notice there's one this coming Thursday, and it's 1 hour long, and they are very informative. They've had different people from different areas of the state, sometimes school districts, as they even put some of them on. Then you have another one on May 21st. Actually, you have two on May the 21st. One at 1 from 1 to 2 and another one from 4:30 to 5:30. So there you can get 2 additional credit, for some hours. And then on the 28th, there's another one that is 3 hours long. So that will be very interesting if you've got that. And that's going to be on Senate Bill 1566. That's for the training, governance for improved student learning, some of the things that we have to have. And just like I said, if you're interested, make sure that you register for them. You can, or you can have Chrissy register you. And make sure you're around your computer on that date and you can sign in, and you'll see what it's like. They're rather interesting. And they do have some information that's very informal, but it is good information that they have. And it talks about different districts and what they're doing and how they're operating and things like that. So if you have an opportunity, take advantage of it. You can get training hours, which is something very special. And as far as we know right now, summer leadership is still going to go on. We do not know. TASB has not said anything about whether they're going to cancel it or not, but we'll see. June is coming up rather quickly, so we'll have to wait and see. Now we move on to the next item, the consent agenda items. Mr. Sumner.
Mr. President, the administration would like to recommend the consent agenda discussion items. However, I would like to note on Budget Amendment 4, so you don't think that I'm trying to sneak anything by you. There is a budget amendment, and Philip can add to this, that includes $1 million out of our building fund that we designated earlier in the year, that we would like to use for our middle school and high school roofing project and high school renovation project that we're right now in the process of soliciting bids. This was money that we received, or it's money partly from some of our money left over for our maintenance tax notes, and also money that we received from the state in our Hurricane Harvey grant that we have. And so I'll if you have questions on that, you can direct that to Philip Carroll. But it goes to our construction project to help pay for those two major projects.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. Do you have a recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. This is Paul Mostello. Do we have a motion on the administrative recommendation, please?
I also move on that recommendation. This is Felix.
Thank you, Mr. Landine. Do we have a second, please?
Jan Mostello, I second.
Thank you, Jan. Any comments, questions, please?
Mr. President, this is money, or Mr. Sumner, this is money that has kind of already been earmarked to do all of these things, right?
Mr. Carroll, go ahead and answer that, please.
That's correct. We had kind of temporarily set it aside at the end of last year. Because if you look at the bottom of the amendment, we'd already kind of allocated that $3 million for these other things. And so it just kind of switches some numbers around, but the bottom line is our projected fund balance is still, more than 4 months of operating, which is very, very good. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Any other comments or questions?
So, Mr. Carroll, on page 59, the 41,000, and it says cafeteria sound wall. Then you have something about the gym floors. All this is included in that $1 million? Or is that something we have it on a check registry?
No, those are projects that the maintenance department funded out of their budget this year. The money that we're transferring over to the building fund it's only to finish the roofing projects, like Mr. Sumner said, and the restroom renovation at the high school. That's all that we're planning to finish up out of the building funds.
Mr. Salmonego, some of those were projects that we had discussed when we looked back in the fall, identified areas that we were working on removing the carpet off the wall in the cafeteria and the mini blinds and doing some repairs in that. And that was part of the overall that we figured into all that amount. Patrick was able to take some of that or most of that out of his existing budget to pay for those in that some of the repair money that he had.
Okay, I mean, because Mr. Sumner, the reason I'm asking is only because, you know, this is actually, you know, if you think about this registry is for the month of April. And I found it odd that we were closed for a whole month and we had 17 pages worth of checks that were written. I thought, wow. I mean, I understand some of them are daily operationals, but you know, there's quite a bit in here on different types of little projects that we're taking care of. You know, it seemed like we ran to Home Depot quite a bit, and you know, and I just kind of, I mean, it's not that I can't wrap myself around it. I'm just.
Well, Mr. Salmonego, we did take advantage of the time we were closed. For example, we always strip and redo the gym floor in June. And since we didn't have to wait to June, we did a lot of work during the month of March and April to try to get as many projects done as we could. And so Patrick had a list of a lot of maintenance items that needed to be worked on and done. And so that's what we've been doing. And I've got Patrick in here in my office if you needed to ask any specific questions. But these are things that would have probably been done later in the school year, but we went ahead and did it now. And we tried to do as much as we could with our existing budget that we had. And these are items that we would have, a lot of them are items that we would normally have identified.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carroll, Mr. Sumner, Ms. Palmastella. Are there any other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Mr. Lerma, Billy Lerma,
Yes.
Ms. Jan Mastella.
Yes.
Okay, Stephen Helcher,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Sheck,
Yes.
Mr. Felix Landin,
Yes.
Mr. John Samiego.
Hold on, I can't unmute. Oh, there you go. Yes.
Thank you. Paul Mastella, yes. The motion carries 7-0 for the consent agenda items to pass. Thank you very much. Mr. Sumner, do we have any closed session items that we need to deal with this evening?
Yes, sir, we do. We have two items on the agenda: employee issues and concerns and employment of certified personnel. And Ms. Castillo delivered to all the board members a closed session packet that we can look at. When we go into closed session, everyone will go off except for the principals and Ana Elizondo and myself. And then when we come back in, they can come back if they would like, but normally this is the point that they would, if they were at our meeting, that they would leave our meeting. So if at this particular point, if I can allow the principals to get off, then we will take just a few minute break to get set up the live stream will be turned off during our closed session portion. When we come back in, Mr. Mostella, we need to wait just about a minute again for the live stream to get caught back up for when we to start, and then I'll make the recommendations to after we come out for hiring of any individual.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sumner. The board will convene in the closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, for possible employment, employee issues and concerns, 551.074, employment of certified personnel, 551.074. If a closed session item requires action, the board shall take such action upon reconvening an open session as 551.102. A certified agenda of closed session is maintained, 551.103, and items are posted and disclosed in accordance with the law, 551.104. It is
They send us.
8:07 PM, May the 11th, 2020. We are in closed session.